Before I begin this video, let me preface it with this. I love the Xbox Elite Series 2 controller. I love the way it feels, the way it looks, even to the point that I just take it out of the case sometimes just to admire it. After buying this controller, I think I finally get the feeling some people get when they buy a brand new car. The feeling of, yeah, it's probably a bad use of my money, but the experience is amazing though. So I am first and foremost a PC gamer. I did have an Xbox One at one point for a certain one game. And then said certain one game got announced for PC, to which I then immediately sold it and haven't looked back since. Either way, the point is I have a lot of history with Xbox controllers. For reasons.
Double kill, triple kill, extermination, overkill, killing frenzy.
From the original thick Duke controller to the almost perfect 360 controller to the side grade that was the Xbox One, and now finally we have this Elite series that will supposedly be forward compatible with the new Xbox 2 or whatever dumb name they give it. Okay, so I wrote this part before Microsoft officially announced their new console. Yeah, I wish they called it the Xbox 2 at this point. Point is, this is the next generation of Xbox controllers. And not just because of what's on the outside, but what's on the inside as well. If you take apart the Elite Series 2 controller, you'll find a bunch of new circuitry that's never been seen before. This isn't just an Xbox One controller with some extra features that are just slapped on. This is like a complete new iteration of Xbox controllers. It's completely engineered and built from the ground up. So what comes with all this brand new engineered technology? Well, from what I've been able to dig up, not actually a whole lot. One thing I found is that this controller is always checking for stick drift.
The Elite 2 possesses software-level drift prediction. This isn't just a game controller, it's a piece of sophisticated hardware. It's got software all up in it, constantly monitoring its functions and adjusting the experience.
Thus eliminating one of the most common issues I've had with all Xbox controllers starting with the 360. And that is about half the Xbox One and 360 controllers I've owned would eventually get stick drift. Every time it happens, it crushes my soul. That one small little drift can completely ruin the experience of the game and thereby making the whole entire controller useless. Now, a feature like this is something you would take for granted. If the controller does its job correctly, you would never even know your controller ever drifted. And on top of that, the fact that someone could never realistically test this feature out until months or even a year of use? Well, that's where I come in, because you see, on my first Elite Series controller, my left thumbstick was malfunctioning. That's right, right out of the box, my controller had a joystick issue. And to be honest, I didn't notice since the only game I was playing at the time was Skyrim, and it only affected the left thumbstick. But as soon as I started playing Hollow Knight, that's when it became apparent. Whenever I quickly flicked my thumbstick to the left, my controller would occasionally read a slight right at the end of the flick. Which, as you could imagine, would make playing a game like Hollow Knight, or for that matter any 2D platformer, unplayable. And I have indeed died several times from this faulty behavior, leading to some very rage-inducing deaths. So while this joystick issue may not have necessarily been a drift issue, I can at least confirm that whatever compensation software is happening isn't going to perform miracles. Okay, so I was a little bummed out having to exchange this controller, but I gave Microsoft the benefit of the doubt. Anyway, let's get back to the review. When I first unboxed the Elite controller, it was like a dream. They've really nailed the Apple experience with this. You will find the controller in its case, which, by the way, if you don't already know, comes with a charger, so it can be charged while in the case, which is a neat feature that also leads me to another nice feature, and that is a built-in battery. This, however, is a feature I'm a little torn on. On one hand, it's super convenient to have. I can stop worrying about rechargeable batteries I always use and instead just charge with a cable. But this really makes me want to question the lifespan of the controller. How long until this controller battery kicks the bucket? Seeing that I'm paying so much, I'd expect an excellent long-lasting battery, but who really knows at this point? This is again something I can only hope will pan out well for the next couple of years. Now, the first thing I did when I first got my controller was obviously to pair it to my PC. Unfortunately, here's where another issue rears its ugly head. One of the key selling features to the Xbox Elite Series 2 controller is the customization you get from the Xbox Accessories app. You can change your profiles, change your button inputs, etc. You can even change the sensitivity curves on your thumbsticks. However, if you try to access the Xbox Accessories app when you're connected to the controller via Bluetooth, you can't access the Xbox controller profiles at all. All it tells you to do is to connect it through a wire. Now, on the surface, this seems like a very minor complaint. Just connect the cable and configure the profile, which honestly it would be. Unfortunately, every single time you, God forbid, want to change your profile, you completely desync from the PC via Bluetooth. Meaning, every time you decide to do this, you have to go to your Windows Bluetooth devices, remove the Elite Series 2 controller, and then resync everything all over again like you just got it. This, needless to say, is ridiculous. This is the kind of jankiness I would expect from a third-party knockoff device, not an official Microsoft device, who, by the way, both owns Windows and Xbox. So why am I having such a terrible experience using the both of them together? Anyway, after all that nonsense, I was finally able to play some games. And let me tell you, using the paddles with this controller is an awesome experience. Being able to roll, jump, heal, whatever, without ever having to leave the thumbstick is liberating. And after getting used to all that, it felt really hard going back to my Xbox controller when I had to return my first one. The few days I had to wait using my old Xbox One controller felt terrible. The thumbsticks didn't feel it anywhere near as smooth. The build quality just felt like cheap plastic. Like it was made for some children's toy, not like the big strong gamer that I am, obviously. On a more serious note, if you're interested in this controller but have no money for it, do not, and I repeat, do not use a friend's, because once you use it, it changes you. The man that was perfectly happy with their stupid ass toy Xbox One controller is no longer in existence. Instead, he was replaced by a spoiled man who can't accept anything else except the most luxurious product. Seriously though, this is one of those things that you're perfectly happy with what you have until you see what's better. And for the absurd price of $200, I would steer clear from it if you can't afford it. Now, when playing Skyrim on PC, it is a sin to play without mods. I, of course, have my game modded, though one problem I always come across using controller is that sometimes mods create button prompts that are keyboard only, so like certain mods I have G for an extra action key or H for hide my helmet mod. This is normally unreachable on a controller, but I thought this would be a perfect use case for my Elite controller. I mean, I did have one extra paddle unmapped. Well, after looking around the Xbox accessories apps, I concluded that there's no way to bind the paddles to anything except another Xbox button. I found this extremely frustrating. Imagine being a PC gamer and finally having 4 extra buttons to bind onto a game, but have no way to actually do it. Thankfully, I have the solution for you. Rewazda is a program that in about a literal week after the Elite Series came out, they implemented the Elite Series 2 to have completely remappable paddles, turbo support, fully customizable profiles which 4 can be mapped at any time by making a standard profile count as its own customizable profile. All of this done by a third-party developer and fully implemented in about a week after the controller was released. Now, if you're anything like me, you're probably thinking, how is that even possible? How does a company as huge as Microsoft get completely dunked on from a third party on hardware they made? You can even program multiple functions to a single paddle by, say, double tapping or holding it down, up to a total of 4 different functions on a single button. Microsoft, step your game up. Rewazda isn't free, but man, $6 is a steal compared to how much money I spent on the controller, and frankly, having this program fully unlocks all the potential this controller really has, and I highly recommend it if you play a lot of PC games with this controller. Alright, I finally have my Skyrim profile ready and made. I can now just enjoy the game on my beautiful controller and it broke. Yep, using Bluetooth, which, by the way, was the whole reason I finally decided to buy this controller, is actually incredibly finicky. Every 20 minutes or so, for no apparent reason that I can decipher, the Elite Series disconnects momentarily. And that's if I'm lucky. In some cases, the game lags to about 1 frame per second and then completely disconnects, and the only way to reconnect it is completely turn it off and back on again, which most of the time, as you would imagine, ends up killing me. I've done some research on my particular case, and it seems to be an issue specifically with built-in Bluetooth in Z370 and Z390 motherboards, and happens in various games. Skyrim has a complete frame drop issue that I mentioned earlier, but then games like Hollow Knight have zero issue whatsoever. Where this issue gets even weirder though is with Monster Hunter World. Initially in Monster Hunter I would get disconnects, and it would happen fairly frequently. Now with the Iceborne update, I have 0 disconnects. So something in the game's code is running that makes the Elite Series 2 controller disconnect, and I'm not sure what it is. In fact, the only thing I know for sure is that none of these issues happen on my OG $40 Xbox One controller, which, by the way, I could buy 4 of these and it would still be cheaper than the Elite Series 2. Sadly, this is not where my Elite Series 2 issues end. After I already returned my original Elite Series 2 controller from the initial drift issue I was having, I yet again was faced with a different hardware issue. This time it was the infamous sticky A button. If you listen closely to this video, you can see that I'm pressing all 4 of the face buttons and they all sound fine. However, if I start to tilt down with the A button, you start to hear that it's not clicking anymore. The button feels mushy like this, and honestly, pretty much is broken to me. Now you might be asking yourself why I said this is the infamous A button issue. Well, that's because when I was initially looking at the issues I was having with my first Xbox Elite Series controller, I noted that a ton of people were having problems with this controller and its A button being sticky. And wouldn't you know it, after I returned my first one and got a new one, I ended up getting a sticky one. That makes me 0 for 2 on fully functioning controllers. And this issue really just sucks because it's not bad enough to be like, okay, I definitely have to return this right now, but it's bad enough to sour my whole experience. Honestly, if it weren't for the fact that I used the paddle so much instead of the A button, I probably would have returned it already by now. Which leads me to my conclusion. And you're probably thinking that all the issues I've had made me hate this controller. But despite everything, I can't bring myself to hate this controller. In fact, after making this video, I'll be exchanging it for another one. Which I know sounds kind of stupid, and it honestly probably is. After watching so many other reviews, I had an idea of how the controller's build quality would feel. But to actually have the controller in your hands and feel it is something that, in my opinion, cannot be put to words. For years, I've always questioned how Apple fans forgave so much for the sake of the device feeling quote-unquote nice. But now I finally understand how they feel. And ironically, it was with a product made by Microsoft. Now for the big question. Do I recommend the Xbox Elite Series 2 controller for PC gaming? Well, no. At least that is for now. The hardware and software issues that I've had with this controller are unacceptable. On top of my personal experience, I've read many stories of people ordering this controller several times and exchanging it several times, up to 7 in fact sometimes, all with hardware issues. As of right now, February 8th, the Xbox Elite Series 2 hasn't had another firmware patch for their controller, and nor has my motherboard have a Bluetooth update for its drivers, so I'm still stuck with this disconnect issue, and it doesn't seem like they're fixing it anytime soon. However, as far as hardware issues go though, it seems like Microsoft is updating their Xbox Elite Series 2 revision. Hopefully this time, with all these issues sorted out. As for me, I can't not have the Elite Series 2 controller at this point. I can't go back. So I'm gonna order another one and return the one I have at Costco. Maybe this time I'll get a bug-free controller. Maybe Microsoft will fix the Bluetooth issues I've been having. Maybe this time things will be different. Thank you for making it this far into the video. If you liked it, and it seems like you did if you watched the whole thing, please leave a like and subscribe. I'm kind of starting out this whole YouTube thing, and there are going to be many more videos to come, so I'll catch you later on the next one.